I have seen this movie, I think 3 times now. I really love it. I think I was reading some interviews that you did, and I love that you talk so much about tension. I love how I think when the trailer first dropped, I think I saw someone refer to this as a comedic thriller, which I think is incredible, a phrase I've never heard before. Um, let's see, where do I want to start with you? Let's see. Um, a quote that I really like that you said, I want to dress the actors in such a way that not only does it look like the show is not going to go on in an hour and a half, but it doesn't look like it's going to go on in a week. And when I saw that quote, it was another time that I went back and rewatched it, and I was just so um taken with, I won't say the distressedness of it all, but I kept thinking about maybe how long these characters have been in these clothes. I kept thinking about maybe like the wrinkledness of some things, maybe how they keep shoving their sleeves up to get the work done. I guess in terms of that, um, maybe just stressing things, I'll say what's important there, but I guess how does that go along with that tension that I just brought up?
Well, first, I love that this is what you kind of connect it with because I think that that's really sort of like the tension and the kind of like wear and tear of the world is really a character of the costumes. It's like above, like in addition to the era and the specific characters, the way in which the clothes are worn and what was happening to the clothes and the people wearing them before we meet them is a huge part of the visual story. And I needed the audience to understand that everyone there was like struggling. Like, there's that scene when like Lauren and Rosie, their worldview is revealed to be quite different when he says, this is my shot. And she goes, it's a shot. But Lauren doesn't think it's a shot. He thinks it's the shot, right? So I wanted to make sure that everyone in the movie looks like they have enough to lose, right? And
Oh yeah.
I wanted to make sure that they all look like they were really just hanging on by a thread. Um, and so for me, the idea that when we meet someone in an outfit, of course the outfit has to be accurate to who they are and iconic and something that like we will move with them through this intense story with. Um, but I also wanted to really communicate like, oh, Lawrence literally been sleeping in this outfit for a week on the sofa in his office, right?
Mhm.
Like these writers are choosing things, or in the case of like Gilda, like when we finally see Gilda in street clothes, which actually doesn't happen until halfway through the movie because we see her in like different costumes, like
Mhm.
in rehearsal costumes before we get to the writer's room. Like we see Gilda and she's in, the iconic Gilda Radner like leotard and like and jeans. And the idea there was to really remind people that this woman is a highly flexible and inventive performer who's ready to go, right? She can run up
Yeah.
on stage. And so like, I work really closely with Ella to make sure that like our Gilda like was in sneakers and in fact like her jeans were a little big to make sure that she could always be flexible and move. And so for me, the idea is just like I wanted to make sure that the world looked like the characters had a lot to lose. And that quote that you brought up when I said to Jason, I want it to look like the show might not go on in this day and it might not look, and it doesn't even looks like it might not go on in a week. That was like a really important mantra for me because that was like my breakthrough moment when I kind of, whenever you're doing a movie that's based on real life, um, there's always this question of how can I how can I bring like some of my passion, what I love about the story to it visually. And for me, it was about creating that tension because I was like, I created replicas of all of the iconic outfits, even things that never got seen in the movie. Anything that was on TV that night, I had hanging and ready to go. But then it occurred to me, I was like, but if I show that too much to the audience, they're going to get very comfortable.
Oh
I was
yeah.
like, I have to show them less of that, or I have to show them just
Mm,
pieces, or I have to
okay.
show them like even like Gilda in rehearsal for Home Invasion.
Yeah.
She's in the costume, but it's under a robe. Like we don't even
Yeah.
get to see
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
like
Hmm.
we're waiting, and we're waiting for the pieces to click into place. But we had to torture the audience a little bit because every character in this movie is tortured, right? I mean, it's like an obstacle course, right, for them. So
Yeah.
I wanted to create that for the audience.
And I mean, also, I literally just watched that scene where they're like rehearsing and they're like laying there on the couch, and it's just sort of like I love that she has the robe on there because now we might view that as like an iconic costume, but then it's just like what she was wearing on the first night of the show. It hasn't become iconic yet, which I think is a really cool thing. I feel like there was a lot of really cool stuff that we see like slivers of that we now sort of know what they are. And I like that you're not just like, here it is. This is, I really love that you did that. Um,
I'm glad you responded to that because it took me a while to get there. One thing I want to point out about that rehearsal was that was when I really learned that like I can use that tension because we have Gilda essentially in her full outfit because Gilda is like the consummate professional. And
mhm.
I remember really like having to like make a case. I was like, Belushi does not have a shred of costume on. The only costume that Belushi is wearing is his glasses, which the prop
Mhm.
people, but because I was like, this man literally is staring at the door
Yeah,
during the rehearsal.
yeah.
Like,
And
we do not believe that this is going to go on.
every time that he comes on screen, it's just like, oh, we're lucky that he's still in the building. Like it's just yeah, he's a big source of that tension that I love throughout. Um I did want to ask about the the show's budget. I guess I kind of want to jokingly ask you, like, how do you think you would fare if you were handed like $12 to make 90 minutes of television? Like I love all of the things that we see people on that they have on that we eventually see them wearing, like the togas, the bumblebee outfit. Um I can't remember what the sketch is exactly called, the Dan Aykroyd short shorts. I
Oh,
love
the construction site.
yeah.
Yes.
How do you think you would personally fare with a first season, first episode costume budget? Would that terrify you?
This is not a hypothetical. I've done it. I've done my time in indie
Right.
filmmaking because
Hmm.
I'm always seduced by a good story. And I mean, I did a movie for, Gus Van Sant called Don't Worry, He Won't Get Far on Foot. And it was a period
Good
movie that
movie.
spanned like 30 years that I loved
Hmm.
making it. And the entire movie's budget was $3 million. So
Oh,
like, and I wait, but in the case of Saturday Night, it was really important to find a way to communicate that scrappiness. And what's interesting is in the case of like the bee outfits, which are, a recreation of the wonderful original designer Franny Lee's outfits. Um, I had to find a way to make them look kind of gross and icky, even though the bee outfits themselves aren't being made new for the show.
hmm.
So it was this we actually had to create everything custom made. The Dolly Parton quote, it takes a lot of money to look this
This
cheap.
cheap. Yep.
And it's like that, right? Where it's like we had to we custom made over 30 B unitards because that very quick gag of Lorraine getting spray painted in the
Hmm.
single that opens the movie in the costume room.
Yeah.
We did that take after take. So every time she got spray
Oh
painted,
wow.
that's a fresh outfit. And so we created all these outfits. I used a vintage ribbing, cotton ribbing material because you can't get quite the right 70s feel.
Mhm.
And we created a very specific color. And we worked really hard to make them look crappy. Like we worked really hard to make sure that the lines had the right bleed on them.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then we would go in to the yellow, which looked too uniform, to make it look like it was a bad dye job. So we would actually desaturate some of the yellow so it looked like the fabric did not dye as well as it should have, right? To
Hmm.
create that kind of ickiness because the B outfits would have been gross, but they would not have been old. Or a
Yeah.
case where I did the togas, which are, they're a unique original creation. They, because we don't have that sketch from the
Hmm.
original show. I remember having a lot of fun with I kept pushing and pushing to make the outfits worse, to make sure when we look at them, you see threads hanging.
Hmm.
So I would have to send them back when they were being custom made to have threads hanging. My stitchers were horrified, right? They were like, "You want threads hanging?" And I was like, "I want them to look terrible." And so and then and I was very excited to put the visible zippers in the back of the men's togas. So whenever they turn around, you see a metal zipper,
Yeah.
which is like, not historically accurate to
No,
ancient
definitely
Rome.
not. What? Well, I mean, like thinking of that, I love thinking of people making the costumes, and I can think of somebody making that bumblebee costume and like stepping back from it and be like, "Yep, that looks like a bumblebee." But then you go down when Lauren goes to like the rumpus hour, like there's so much in there. If you just want to talk about juxtaposition, just like the orange and the pink, even the like the ruffled shirt that Milton is wearing, like none of those cast members would be like maybe caught dead wearing that shirt, which I love thinking about that. So yeah, I like me seeing some threads hanging there. That's so
that that
story
that
driven.
shirt
Yeah.
that Milton Berle is wearing is an exact reproduction of a real shirt that Milton Berle wore. And it was really crazy to even find like the little daisy trim that goes out the front of the placket. Um, the rumpus hour sequence was really important to me because even though it happens, like almost like around like little later than halfway through the movie, I kind of felt like this was the moment that we would finally contextualize everything that we've seen beforehand and we'd be like, oh,
Hmm.
this is the crap that was on TV. Like, this is what they're
Yeah.
fighting against. And so I was really sort of obsessed with that world and making sure that those kind of like aggressively vile, bright, pastel, polyester, like I wanted the audience to sort of like, I kind of felt like the second we walk into the sixth floor, it should smell like Aquanet, like in our visual, in our
Yeah.
imagination, right? Like where we're just like, this smells really chemical. And I wanted that, like, so I wanted that vibe to like permeate for the audience when we
Yeah.
get there.
There's something about the sound in that sequence when the camera's going back and forth and you can hear the costume of the girls moving where it's just like I want to leave. I want to go back upstairs. Yeah,
It was it was really, yeah, it was a really fun world to do. And it was also kind of like, it was like everything that we hate now. It was like, presentational and sexist, and it was horrible, but it was also like a very important visual to say, like, this is why Saturday night actually means something, right? Like, this is why the type of comedy they're trying to break through is truthful. So visually, that was like a big moment, even though, like, when you actually probably time it, I don't know how long it takes. It must be like a 3 or 4 minute sequence, or
yeah,
maybe slightly more.
sure. Um, I was really impressed when I heard how much you read. Like you had read Gilda's book, you read Alan
Zweibels, yeah.
Zweibel's, thank you. Um, I just feel like I haven't, I'm assuming a lot of costume designers and other craftspeople do that. I just haven't heard people say that. I guess I wanted to know, from your perspective, like, is that just like a personal thing that you really like to go from the inside out? Because hearing you read all of those books, it makes me sort of want to read them too, since I'm such a costume nerd, and I wanted to know, I guess, your mindset going into like a research standpoint, maybe.
Well, I read them before even
Okay.
doing the movie. Like
Hmm.
I like love that world. Like the Steve Martin book and even the Martin Short book. These
Yes.
are all great books, by the way, like high recommend.
Hmm.
And I think that what's interesting about all of these books, um, is they really show that there is a serious level of artistry that goes into the creating of these deeply silly characters. I mean, like the Martin Short book is like it's like unbelievably beautiful and like
Hmm.
profoundly heartbreaking. Um and I think that so what I took from them, and and Gilda's, she was just like so full of joy and so like deliciously neurotic, right? And
Yeah.
then like
Hmm.
and then reading like Alan's book, Alan, and everyone's connected in all these books, by the way, to Gilda, which is incredible. But like Alan was so deeply like, Alan and Gilda were like real soulmates, and and their love was not entirely romantic. It was really something that transcend romance. But like, um, reading these books just created this incredible onus on me to honor the human beings,
Mm.
and to kind of like delve into like the souls of these characters. And it was sort of like I felt like I had like a great advantage because like when I was in the fitting with like Ella as Gilda, we were not just talking about like she would wear this. We were talking about why she wanted to wear something, how she felt, what she needed to feel, what her neuroses were, like what she was trying to communicate and what she was trying to hide. And I kind of felt like we really were able to go deep into the weeds of the souls of these people, which is kind of what I find to be most exciting.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I've read all of these books because I'm kind of a freak for all this comedy stuff. I love it.
Yeah.
And so when I went into the movie, um, it was funny because, Jason knows that I'm like crazy for research and I'm going to bring tons and tons of research and like down to the thread count. I am going to have the research and I will tell you like, what the manufacturing house that made the original fabric was if I can. But also like there was this like moment when it was like all about like taking that and then releasing it. And I kind of felt so lucky because like I knew like deep in my soul, like I had a sense of who these people were and what I was trying to communicate. And I think what they were was not only one thing. I think that all the characters in
Yeah.
Saturday Night are complicated people. And I mean, it really is a comedic thriller, and that like these people they're fighting for their lives, right?
Yeah.
Like it doesn't feel like it because it's, we're watching it and we're like, oh, it's just about a comedy show, but it's really about people who are fighting for their creative meaning.
Yeah. Okay. I want Dick Ebersol's patchwork jacket. I read something where you showed Gabriel LaBelle in that Lauren Michaels reindeer sweater. I'm such a loser for a sweater. Um, with all of the beautiful pieces in here, what would you take for yourself?
I mean, without question, the reindeer sweater.
That's a great sweater.
I should have taken the reindeer sweater, but I didn't. I should have like begged. I should have begged Sony for the reindeer. It was the first piece of costume that I found because I was going through the research, and he wears the reindeer sweater a lot in the research, and for a long time I was like convinced that that had to be the hero piece, and then the closer we got, Jason and I really kind of began to develop a visual motif where like Lauren had to be this kind of like the rock, like literally a rock at the
Yeah.
center of the story. And I think the reindeer sweater would have put him too much in the fray of the chaos. And I think he needed to always be this like thing that we can find no matter where we look. And, but so I was convinced that I was going to have to make the reindeer sweater, and it's a really elaborate sweater. And then I found it. And it was the first thing that I found. And that was the moment, and it happens, and it doesn't always happen. It happens and you're like, oh, we're going to be okay, someone's looking over my shoulder, like someone's
Yeah.
helping me here. And so like the reindeer sweater was the first thing I found. I didn't even tell Jason when I got it because I got it online, and I like literally until I had it in my hands, I was like, I don't even trust that I'm getting this thing. And
Yeah.
then I got it and it like arrived and it was literally the exact sweater. And I, to this day, can't believe that happened. So we do have the reindeer sweater.
Uh, I'm jealous.
He sent a picture of the sweater to Lauren
Mm.
right when I got it. And Lauren wrote back, I didn't only wear the reindeer sweater.
That sounds like a very Lorne Michaels answer. Yes. Um, okay. Well, thank you so much for your time, Danny. I could talk to you like for hours about this show because, it was like going through talking about seeing like people wearing vintage pieces and thinking about how some characters are they're wearing vintage clothes from like the 50s or 60s. I don't know. There's so much I could dive into here with you. So thank you so much for your time. Great, great work. Love it
Thanks,
so much.
Joey.
Big fan of the
Thank,
movie and everything.
I'm
Yeah.
really glad you like it. And I'm always looking forward to our chats. So
Yeah.
it's really nice to see you again,
You
Joey.
too. All right. Have a good
Okay.
rest of
Have
your
a
day.
great day.
You
Okay.
too. Bye.
Bye.